Welcome to On the Water and in the Field, Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County's news magazine show. I'm your host, Kim Barber. We're hosting today's show from the Suffolk County Marine Environmental Learning Center, our flagship location here in Southold. This facility has undergone a major makeover in the past year and will be showcasing all of our improvements and campaign partners later on in today's show. But first, we'll learn about the making of an oyster bed and how these structures are advancing both habitat and shellfish enhancement efforts in our waters. Then we'll visit our underwater marine meadows and get an update on eelgrass restoration efforts being conducted by our habitat restoration team. After that, we'll take a look at how the kelp aquaculture feasibility study is going. Then we'll head offshore with our fisheries team and a local commercial fisherman. They will be telling us all about a new campaign they are heading up to promote fresh, indigenous, sustainable, healthy seafood. So hang on, and here we go. In our first story, we'll be learning about how oyster beds are created and how they are being utilized in projects throughout the region. We've partnered with the Shinnecock Indian Nation and the Great Peconic Race Organization, among other groups, to set out these structures. Let's learn more about this process.
Spat on Shell is what the project is called. Greg Rivara, Cornell Cooperative Extension of Suffolk County's Marine Program Aquaculture Specialist, is getting the Spat on Shell ready to be delivered.
So we call it Spat on Shell. Spat's the name for juvenile shellfish, especially oysters. And you can see through this plastic mesh, try to get you a better one to look at. You can see through this plastic mesh all these set oysters. And these are over a month old. They've been in this tank for at least a month. And we use these tanks to do what's called remote setting. So we take the larvae from the hatchery and we put them in these tanks full of warm seawater. We have a heater in that tank. And we put food in and aerate. The larvae go in, and within a couple of days, they're actually set. They grab onto a shell, and that's where they stay the rest of their lives. They can't move around like scallops or hard clams, or surf clams do, for that matter. We shoot for like 10 per shell, maybe 20 per shell, depending on the species of shell. A bigger shell, more. And then these bags get slid open in the field. We take the plastic, we recycle the plastic, and they get put onto a reef or onto a hard bottom to create a shellfish bed or an oyster reef. A reef is more three-dimensional off the bottom. An oyster bed could just be a monolayer of shell, and it's just like planting oysters. It's not that difficult to permit that as it is an oyster reef, which could be a hazard to navigation. So every few days we drain these tanks, rinse them. These are ready to be planted. They've actually been in here too long, and they'll grow much better in the field than they will in here because there's a limited amount that our pool pump can pump. It's not really used for edible oysters too much in New York. Most people want cocktail oysters that are the single oysters, sort of like these. So these, you would not see these on these shells because they wouldn't look quite as nice as these. So this is more for restoration and enhancement. And by the way, these shells, even without oysters on them, these shells create a lot of habitat for other species, fish, crabs, worms. It's pretty incredible. A lot of sessile organisms like sea anemones, and things that don't move, but they grab onto it like the oysters do. And we've got, between these two tanks, about 100 of these bags. We've already planted some, and we're working with the Shinnecock Nation, we're working with the Moriches Bay Project, and we're working with the Friends of Belport Bay as well. So they're helping to fund this operation, and then we monitor them over years. And what we planted 3 years ago in Moriches Bay and 2 years ago in Belport, they're doing amazing. Belport, we have them right near the breach that was formed during Hurricane Sandy, by Fire Island National Seashore, by the ocean. And the growth rate's incredible there. So the sooner these get out of here, the better. They'll actually grow better. And most of these will get planted intertidally. The Shinnecock project is pretty nice because it's a big reef that's three-dimensional. It's probably that high off the bottom. Some of it's subtidal, some of it's intertidal. And it basically parallels the shoreline that we're working on, and it's centered off the Nation Cemetery, which had a lot of problems with erosion. And with our beach nourishment project and all the plantings that my colleagues have done, it's a pretty amazing beach right now. So this oyster reef is going to be a living reef. It's going to create habitat. It's going to protect the shoreline as like a wave break because it faces the west. You can see the Ponquag Bridge from where these are going. And in the summertime and in certain times of the winter, you get some serious wave action there. So it'll be the first line of defense after some eelgrass is going to be planted outside of it for protecting the coast from erosion. They also will spawn, probably next year, they'll be big enough to spawn, and their spawn, the larvae float around for 2 weeks or so. And the larvae can wind up anywhere in Shinnecock Bay. And they can set up in areas where they haven't been oysters before, and people could harvest them, or they're doing their job filtering the water. So it's not just the reef, it goes beyond the physical locality of the reef we're building.
These shells were bagged up at a remote location. They were dropped here a few days ago. Now we have to move them from here down to the water's edge, and then from the water's edge out to where we are constructing our reef.
We started the reef last year, and we used fossil shells from Florida, and these are actually mined, because the shells you see here, we keep them on the ground in the sun and rain, and we turn them over for 6 months to a year before we can use them. And we needed a lot of shell in a short period of time, so Chris Pickrell, my boss, found this source in Florida, and these are all kinds of shells that you expect to see in the tropics. And then this living veneer of this stuff, oyster, hard clam, and surf clam shell, is going on top of that.
Do you get anything locally?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of restaurants on the North and South Forks, in fact, all across the world, a lot of shell go right into the dumpster. It's kind of sad, it's a waste. So I'm working with Little Creek Oyster in Greenport. The owners, Rosalie and Ian. Every Monday I go and I pick up literally a pickup truck load of shell. And it's been very fruitful. You'll have to take a picture or video of the pile out there over the last 6 months. It's quite a pile. And it'll stay there again until next spring. We hope to do more of that. It just becomes a material handling thing. A lot of shells generated. So I actually went Saturday morning, Memorial Day weekend, and came back Monday. That's how much shell there was. That's only one place. And because I live in Greenport Village and I can get on the way to work Monday morning, I can stop and get the shells. It's on my way. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at the growth rate, the survival rate. Obviously, not 100% of these are not going to grow, into old age. There's no way. Everything wants to eat an oyster, not just people. I'll be looking at that. I'll also be looking at, in the future, reproduction and looking for new set. So as these grow, if new babies attach to that, we know that it came from Shinnecock Bay, because we're not going to bring them back here and set again, right, next year. And we'll be able to tell if little oysters form on there that they were larvae from Shinnecock Bay. Now, we can't prove necessarily they're from these oysters, but it's a pretty good chance that they would be from our oysters that were spawned here in Southold. But by putting some structure in, whether those are commercial shellfish farmers, wire mesh cages with thousands of oysters in it, or a little reef, we're creating a three-dimensional structure that attracts fish. Little fish go to the hide from the predators, big fish come, and many times when we go to these reef sites, we find fishing lures, because people want to go fishing there because that's where the fish are. It's crazy. The other thing we want to do is basically have the oysters filter the water. When they're taken out of the water, they remove nitrogen. And that's something that everybody says is too much nitrogen, etc. So that's the main reason. And also, let's get more awareness.
Anything else?
Eat more Long Island grown oysters. That's all I can tell you. Do something good for the environment.
Thanks, Greg, and special thanks to Little Creek Oysters for partnering with us to conduct the shell recycling efforts required to make our oyster beds. We'd now like to check out another community partnership we've been working on. This one features agents and staff from Daniel Gale Sotheby's International Realty of the North Fork.
Well, the area that we live in is a resort community, and therefore the most important part of the resort, in my opinion, is the water and the activities that take place on the water. That's what draws people to the location. That's what adds so much value. And more importantly, it's the resource that is important to the people that live here. I think CCE does a wonderful job of educating the people. They are so responsive to the community with their own outreach. I asked somebody from the program to come in and give us a little speech about what the program is and how it's benefiting the community. It was so enlightening that it really inspired all of us to get involved. My hope is that Daniel Gale Sotheby's International Realty and CCE will collaborate on keeping our waters clean going forward for many, many years. I feel like this is the beginning. It was a great project. The agents really enjoyed getting out and cleaning up the beaches. We then worked with Cindy Rowe, which is a local artist, to create the upsculpt project with the whales that will be auctioned off at your event, which we're really looking forward to. And I think it will bring a lot of the community together. And the idea is to just educate people and to get them to become involved. And then next year maybe we'll come up with another great project that will continue to educate everybody and bring us together as a community and keep our waters clean.
We're here outside our greenhouse where we propagate local coastal plants like the Spartina alterniflora or marsh grass that we grow from seeds collected from local wetland systems. In the spring and the fall, we also hold our eelgrass plants in large circulation tanks inside until we are ready to plant them at our restoration sites. Now we'll learn more about the results of these restoration efforts and what our Marine Meadows team has in store this year.
Well, eelgrass is our local species of seagrass. It's really important for marine habitat, and it also has other ecosystem services that are very important to us, such as helping to prevent erosion of our shorelines, and it helps to remove nutrients from the water that would otherwise cause harmful algal blooms. But I would argue, most importantly, its habitat value is probably what we value the most. It serves as a feeding ground and a shelter for so many of our marine species, especially during their juvenile phases when they're most vulnerable. So it's known as a nursery ground. So our program focuses on monitoring the eelgrass that still exists in our estuaries and also restoring it to places where it used to grow and it no longer can. Or it was removed for one reason or another, and now we're trying to bring it back. We've worked in all three of our estuaries, in Long Island Sound, the Peconic Estuary, and throughout the South Shore Estuary. It's sort of a three-step process with eelgrass restoration. You know, first and foremost, you have to go and choose a site. So site selection is really important. We have to make sure that all the conditions at that site throughout an entire year are going to be suitable for eelgrass. So often we'll go in and we'll put out temperature loggers and even light loggers or light meters. We'll do different tests to see if the conditions are going to be suitable for grass. And if they do turn out to be suitable, we'll start with a small test planting at that site. And we follow that throughout at least a full season, either spring or fall season, and if not, we really prefer to give it either a full year or over winter and check on it in the spring and see how it held out. So from there, once we had a successful test planting, then we go out and we harvest shoots from a healthy eelgrass meadow, and now we're mostly using our new restoration method, which is biodegradable discs of burlap. We coin them tortillas, and this way we can have the help of volunteers to help us assemble these planting units. We get 10 shoots of eelgrass per planting unit, and it really helps speed up the process once we're ready to plant. So once we have our planting units ready and assembled, we bring them to the restoration site, and it requires full scuba. We go down and we plant them. We try to monitor at least on a monthly basis for that first season, and keep a close eye on them to make sure that there isn't something physical that's happening that's causing them to be removed. You know, like maybe crabs or a storm, or we like to be able to narrow down if it wasn't successful, exactly what happened. A lot of times they do really well, but it's more of a slow process if they don't survive there, that we have to figure out exactly what happened. A lot of times it just, warm temperatures during the summer months, and they just slowly don't make it. But we've since learned, so we're sort of trying to prevent that from happening now by doing our homework before we put all of our eggs into that basket. I would say that our most successful eelgrass restoration site is St. Thomas Point, which is in Long Island Sound. That was funded years ago through a Long Island Sound study. That site, the conditions were just perfect. We had done some test plantings early on, and they did really well over that first winter, and then we just hit it hard. We were there almost every day during a whole spring season, and we just kept planting and planting, and we came back again the next year and continued planting, and all that work really paid off. More recently, we've been working in Sag Harbor So we're on our 3rd year now of planting into a restored eelgrass meadow there. And yeah, it's looking really promising. We knew that it would be a good site because there is some remnant eelgrass nearby. So there was still some eelgrass holding on, and we went and did some small test plantings there, and they survived over the winter and did great for that first year. And so like I said, now we're in our 3rd year. We're going to be doing another planting there this fall. We're actually going to be using some of the eelgrass that is put together through our Marine Meadows program. Yeah, it's really exciting because it's nice to have something so close and so local, and that's doing really well. Yeah, I just hope that we continue to have successes, and we've learned so much over the past 14 years that I've been here, and this program's been going on for over 30 years. And we've really got it nailed down now, and we just hope that we continue to receive the support so that we can continue doing this important work.
It's so great to hear that our efforts to bring back local eelgrass populations are working. We hope you'll join us at a Marine Meadows workshop this fall. Check out marinemeadows.org for more information. Now we'll head out to check out another species that we're working on growing, sugar kelp. Suffolk County has awarded us funding through the Water Quality Protection and Restoration Program and Land Stewardship Initiative to conduct a kelp aquaculture feasibility study. Let's learn more about it.
There's been a growing interest in kelp aquaculture and seaweed aquaculture in the northeast of the United States. Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut have all been exploring it. Maine has an active seaweed aquaculture industry. Connecticut currently, just recently, established a commercial industry as well. There's at least 5 kelp farms currently that are developing in Long Island Sound and Connecticut Shore. With all the aquaculture lease opportunities used for shellfish aquaculture in the Peconics, the Suffolk County maintains aquaculture lease parcels. They're 10-acre parcels that individuals can apply for growing shellfish aquaculture. There was a thought that potentially this could be used for seaweed aquaculture as well. The other aspect of seaweed aquaculture that makes it attractive, especially in the Peconics, is that seaweeds are known to be bioextractors. So they will remove naturally, by just growing in their normal fashion, nitrogen and carbon from the water. And then when they're harvested and taken out of the water and removed from the system, they remove that nitrogen and carbon as well. Kelp can be very efficient at doing that. Right now, kelp is, or sugar kelp as it's known, is the most viable commercial product of seaweed. Technically, all the seaweeds that we have locally are edible. It's whether or not they're palatable or even easy to grow would be the other thing. Through the 0.25% water quality funding for the county, they just put in for a aquaculture feasibility study for the Peconic estuary, which Cornell Cooperative Extension had been given administration of the project. And what we're looking for throughout the estuary are areas that are feasible for growing kelp over the winter. So kelp is a cold water species. It would be a winter crop for aquaculturists that have shellfish grounds. And so we actually put the kelp out in December and harvested it in June. This would give the shellfish aquaculture people a winter crop. It's pretty much set the seed strings out in November, December, check them a couple times during the winter, make sure there's no damage, there's no issues, and then come pretty much May, June, depending on the year, you'd harvest them and sell. Besides as a direct food source for humans, sugar kelp is one of the most eaten species in the world between Asia and as well as in Europe. Noah Schwartz, Chef Noah Schwartz in Greenport, who owns Noah's Restaurant, had agreed to host a kelp dinner event, and he created 5 courses with all including kelp in the courses, including the dessert.
All right, this is a first for me in working with local kelp. I've worked in my history as a culinarian, as a chef with many different types of seaweed. This is the first time I've really got the chance to experience what's being produced locally, this variety, the way it was grown, So it's been sort of an adventure. I kind of feel like I'm on one of those like Iron Chef competition shows. Like, the mystery basket is kelp, and there's lots of it, and it's in different forms. So it's been really cool. So right now we're in our, I guess this is gonna be our third course. We're plating the kelp noodle salad, which is made with kelp noodles, which is sort of like a glass noodle, which we enhanced with a miso vinaigrette, the fresh local kelp from the Cornell Cooperative, and some local spring vegetables, and some greenhouse-grown local cherry tomatoes. A little color, a little more flavor, a little different textures. And yeah, it worked out really well. The miso vinaigrette has a little bit of a kick to it, kind of like a chilled noodle salad. Worked out really well.
I'm happy to be here celebrating the future of kelp. At our table are a lot of people with a vested interest, including one who's beginning a company that will produce kelp snacks. And I come from Asia, where our children ate kelp in the form of dried seaweed throughout their childhood. It was really nutritious and easy to eat. And I hope that the kelp program that Cornell fosters and sponsors is a great success.
He created a wonderful experience. I've been around seaweed for a long time and worked with it and have eaten it in different forms, but it was pretty unique to be able to sample such a wide variety of techniques to use and courses to use seaweed in. And I think it holds a lot of potential for Long Island and New York.
Kelp, can it be the new kale? Thanks, Chef Noah, for helping us explore the culinary uses of this species. Time will tell, but in addition to being an interesting menu item, it's looking like kelp could help the economy and the environment. At our kelp dinner, we enjoyed a special wine produced by Castello di Borghese. Let's head out to the vineyard and learn about the Rosé for the Bays.
So the relationship was first established via an art show. An art show called See Something, Save Something, curated by Kara Hovland. She organized 22 artists from the North and South Fork to contribute art for a show here at Borghese Vineyard. 50% of the proceeds of any sales of art were going to go to Cornell as well as to the artists. She brought Cornell to the table. She made the introduction between Borghese and Cornell. And when the three of us got together to discuss this, we were thrilled with the direction things were going. Kimberly Barber from Cornell took it a step further and said she was interested in releasing a wine with Borghese and Cornell, and that is how Rosé for the Bays came about. It was perfect that this Rosé of Cabernet Franc was in the queue, and just like that, we said that would be the wine that's going to benefit Cornell, and the name Rosé for the Bays kind of rolled off of all of our tongues, and naturally Kara stepped up to do the artwork for the label. Personally, the Bays are the source of some of my favorite memories here on the East End. I am a big fan of spending time on the water throughout my summers here. I also personally believe that some of the best sailing conditions are right here in the bay. Fishing, powerboating, enjoying yourself, going to restaurants by boat. Swimming, of course, just actually being in the water. These are some of my most fondest memories and passions out on the North Fork. We want to keep things the way they are for as long as possible. Keep people enjoying the bays, keep the bays safe.
Thanks, Giovanni. And cheers! I hope everyone's enjoying your Rosé for the Bays and this special outdoor screening here at Borghese Vineyard. Thanks again for coming out in support of Cornell Cooperative Extension's Marine Program and this special wine. Be sure to take home some bottles to enjoy for the rest of your summer. This wine pairs nicely with local seafood, so let's head out with our fisheries team and learn about a new campaign designed to support our local commercial fishing industry and promote consumption of sustainable seafood.
We have this great resource here on Long Island, an abundance of fresh local species, and that includes striped bass, fluke, black sea bass, scup or porgies, that's the same thing, squid, bluefish, sea scallops, blackfish, weakfish, oysters, clams, the list goes on and on. the species that are local here on Long Island. The fact is that over 90% of the seafood consumed in the United States is imported from other countries, and an equal amount of what's landed in the United States is exported to other countries. So it doesn't seem to make sense that we have this great product here, yet we're not utilizing it, and you can't beat the freshness. So we went fishing this morning. All the fish that we caught today will be in the market later today and tomorrow. We'd like to teach consumers that the species that are landed here locally are an alternative to a lot of the imported farm-raised species. We are trying to raise awareness of what species are local, where consumers can purchase local seafood, and also market local seafood as Long Island Fish, which is an acronym for Fresh, Indigenous, Sustainable, and Healthy. So we are looking for alternative markets and distribution points for local seafood in cooperation with fish markets, fishermen, the industry, primarily focusing on promoting community-supported fisheries programs on Long Island.
A lot of commercial fishermen here on Long Island, and we have quite a fleet of boats on the east end, Montauk, Shinnecock, Mattatuck, Greenport, and it's very important to the community, and it's very healthy for us to eat fresh local fish.
We're a shipping hub for the North Fork where all the fishermen come and pack out and either ship out or we get to buy the fish as it comes in the door. Had a good run this spring, tremendous amount of fish. In May we packed out 100,000 pounds of local fish, porgies, blackfish, black sea bass.
This is a porgy or scup, some people call it, right here in Mattatuck and Peconic Bay, both. There's more than plentiful this time of year. Super fun fish to go catch with your kids and stuff like that, just because it's a fairly easy fish to catch. On the lower end of the spectrum, people say, oh, there's too many bones in porgies and this and that. But this fish has no more bones than this fish, or this fish, or this fish, or this fish for that matter. Okay. The bone structure in this, and I'll show it to you when we're done here, is the same as any one of these other fish. It's just a smaller fish. A lot of people eat them whole. When you're eating whole fish, you have to deal with the bones. But once we fillet it, you'll see there's not a bone in sight, and the cage or the rack of the fish is exactly the same as the others. So that's that. And you can see there's, bones here, the spine, there's pin bones through here, and the rib bones. Same as any other fish.
We love to promote the local fish. We try to put specials on in the retail as it runs. As the fish is, 1 week it might get a heavy run of porgies, next week it could be bluefish, striped bass. We promote that. We try to give tips on how to cook it. We promote it in a takeout restaurant, and we have a good local, we have maps to show people where it's caught. So we try to promote that local sustainability and wild aspect of what the North Fork and the fishermen do.
The local fish is good for you. It's some of this fish that's imported, it's farmed. We don't know what kind of water it comes out of. And people today are really health oriented, and that's why we want to give them the best fish, best quality fish that we can get them.
So for the project, we created a comprehensive website. It's at www.localfish.org. Residents can go to the site to learn about what species are local, what time of year those species are available, information about the fish, information about where you can buy local fish, whether it's at a fish market or a restaurant that supports the project, or a community-supported fisheries program. Eventually, we'd like to be able to have the option where people can purchase seafood through local retailers on the site. So it's very informative for all aspects of local seafood.
It's been a very important part of Braun Seafood's history, and the whole North Fork. I mean, it's part of the history of who we are and what the North Fork is.
That's good. So what you've got here, you've got porgy and sea bass. These are both pan-fried, and then they're just finished off something with a little white wine and lemon juice. Really simple, easy way, nice, clean. Best way to get it. It doesn't really obscure many of the flavors.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Enjoy. Good.
Delicious.
This is so delicious.
Definitely check out localfish.org to learn more about what species are sustainable and indigenous to our area. Then be sure to pick some up at your local seafood market. We're here in our touch tank room where we educate thousands of youth and adults annually on the importance of our marine environment. This space has undergone a significant transformation in the past year, thanks in large part to California Closets. Let's go explore the new and improved learning spaces.
So I'm Anthony DiVincenzo. I'm one of the managers for California Closets, and this is Jacqueline Strahota.
Hi, I'm one of the designers with California Closets.
And we've been in business here on Long Island for 32 years. We handle all of Suffolk County, and we design storage spaces for every room in the home. And now we also do storage spaces in educational facilities.
And we're so happy for that. We were lucky to have crossed paths with California Closets and have an opportunity to enlist their support in our Good Circle Facility Improvement Campaign. At the time we connected, we had already received a generous grant from the Suffolk County Extension Education Foundation to get started on the upgrades to our Marine Center, but there was still much to be done. We knew working with a company who specifically deals with organization and functional improvements was going to be such a great opportunity for us to make the changes we wanted to see happen at the facility.
I definitely think we walked in and we saw why this was the perfect project for us to be a part of, because we needed better storage and better way to kind of brighten the whole place up. So it just kind of was like a night and day kind of transition. From the beginning to the end.
Yeah, it was a little rough around the edges in here. You know, there were a lot of hardwood colors, a lot of black countertop. It kind of reminded me of the high school classrooms in the Wonder Years TV show, you know, so it needed some updating. That show's been off the air a while.
California Closets was the right company for the job because in addition to being design experts, they also have a focus on utilizing environmentally friendly products.
California Closets has a pillar of sustainability as part of its mission. So we try to source products that are a little bit more environmentally conscious and aware. For example, our boards are CARB certified. We use LED lighting. It's all recycled or upcycled wood fibers that make up the core of the product. It's recyclable. We saw that alignment, you know. We saw that there was a facility here that wants to educate our local community on why the environment is important, why it is fragile, sustainable ways to use it, and not to abuse it. And all those things really lined up with what we believe in.
As we embarked upon our partnership, the design came together and California Closets decided to donate a system valued at over $30,000 to be installed in our touch tank room and classroom spaces.
It's definitely a different kind of space for us, but I think a lot of the same design principles and what we know about storage, it all applies the same way. There were definitely, working inside of cinder block walls, things like that, a little bit different than the normal, where we'd have wallboard or something, but I think we rose to the challenge and we're really happy we did.
This whole exhibit space, I mean, it was really your brainchild to think. I mean, what went into that when we gave you the challenge? We have these program areas we want to feature, but how do we set something up? And I think you nailed it on this one.
Well, thank you. I mean, I know the biggest thing that we wanted is we wanted them to be near each other, but then still give them a little bit of separation so that way you could allocate each one station to the designated poster. And this allows for the kids to kind of really get in there and start using all of them. And I know some of the drawers over here have some of those displays that you wanted to be able to showcase, and they're right there, they can see them and then go back to the main station, and it worked out great. I would definitely say that one of the biggest things was just coming into this and seeing what we had and what we needed to store, but then at the same time make it an exciting place for kids and even adults to come and learn and kind of catch their eye and make them be like, oh wow, this is like amazing. So, I mean, one of my favorite displays is actually the one behind us. It just was a fun way to, here's the TV, but we need storage, and we want to make these colors pop in these different, specimens and everything else that we're showing here. And I just loved the idea of kind of making it different heights and just making it a little bit more unique as opposed to something very streamlined. So.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you could see where form follows function. We knew what it needed to do, and the design came out of that objective. Hey guys, that's a wrap. We did it.
We have some friends who are enjoying their new space as well. So On behalf of Cornell Cooperative Extension's Marine Program, we just thank California Closets so much again for making this space what it is, and it will be enjoyed by adults and kids for many years to come. We're so thankful for the generosity of California Closets, the Suffolk County Extension Education Foundation, and all of our donors who have made our facility improvement campaign a success thus far. We still need some help reaching our goal, so please visit goodcircle.org to learn more. If you want to check out the facility yourself, please join us at our second annual Taste and Tour event on August 18th, where you will enjoy local oysters, seafood bites, and wine pairings, all while touring our facility and grounds. Find tickets on Eventbrite. That's all for this episode. If you'd like to learn more about our programs and projects, please visit our website or follow Cornell Cooperative Extension's Marine Program on social media. See you next time on the water and in the field.